For centuries, ships traveling between Europe and Asia faced a brutal journey. To reach the Indian Ocean, they had to sail around the entire continent of Africa, a voyage of thousands of extra kilometers. But in the desert of Egypt, engineers imagined something extraordinary. A narrow canal that could connect two seas. If it worked, it would shorten global trade routes overnight and change the balance of global commerce forever. A narrow waterway connecting the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea. This passage became known as the Suez Canal. Today, it is one of the most important shipping routes on Earth, and when it stops, global trade immediately feels the impact. The idea of connecting the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea is far older than the modern canal. As early as ancient Egypt, rulers dreamed of linking the Nile with the Red Sea through a network of canals. Some of these early waterways were built and rebuilt over centuries, but they never created a permanent route between the two seas. For thousands of years, ships traveling between Europe and Asia still had to sail around the entire continent of Africa. In the 19th century, the vision of a direct canal returned. A French diplomat, Ferdinand de Lesseps, convinced the Egyptian government to support the construction of a canal across the narrow Isthmus of Suez. Work began in 1859. Tens of thousands of laborers worked under extremely difficult conditions in the desert heat. After 10 years of construction, the canal was finally completed in 1869. For the first time in history, ships could travel directly between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea without sailing around Africa. The new route dramatically shortened global trade routes and quickly became one of the most important waterways in the world. But the canal was never just an engineering project. From the very beginning, it was also a symbol of political power, international influence, and control over global trade. The Suez Canal is one of the most important shortcuts in global shipping. Each year, tens of thousands of vessels pass through this narrow corridor. Container ships carry manufactured goods between Asian factories and European markets. Oil tankers transport energy supplies toward Europe. Bulk carriers move raw materials across continents. Roughly 12% of global trade passes through the Suez Canal. Without this shortcut, ships would have to sail around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. That detour would add thousands of kilometers to many shipping routes. One of the most striking features of the Suez Canal is its simplicity. Unlike the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal has no locks. Ships travel through it at sea level, moving slowly through a narrow ribbon of water carved directly into the desert. In some sections, massive container ships pass through the canal with only a short distance separating them from the sandy banks on either side. Standing on the shore, it can feel almost surreal. A vast desert landscape stretches to the horizon, yet enormous vessels carrying thousands of containers glide silently through the middle of it. Every ship must travel in carefully organized convoys. Traffic moves in one direction for part of the day, then switches to the opposite direction later. This system prevents congestion in the narrow channel and allows thousands of ships to pass safely each year. Pilots with specialized knowledge of the canal board every vessel to guide it through the waterway. Even the largest ships rely on their experience to navigate the tight turns and shallow margins. And while the canal may look calm, the flow of global commerce moving through it never truly stops. Day and night, ships carrying energy, food, raw materials, and manufactured goods pass through this narrow corridor between two continents. In many ways, the Suez Canal is like a heartbeat of global trade, steady, continuous, and vital to the movement of the modern world. In March 2021, the world was reminded just how fragile global trade routes can be. A massive container ship named Ever Given entered the Suez Canal as part of a northbound convoy. The vessel was enormous, nearly 400 meters long, longer than 4 football fields placed end to end. It was capable of carrying more than 20,000 shipping containers. As the ship moved through the narrow canal, strong desert winds and limited maneuvering space made navigation extremely difficult. At one point, the vessel lost alignment in the channel. Its bow slammed into the eastern bank of the canal, while the stern swung toward the opposite side. Within moments, the ship became wedged across the entire canal. Traffic in one of the world's most important shipping routes stopped completely. For nearly 6 days, the canal was blocked. Hundreds of ships quickly began to pile up at both entrances of the canal. Some vessels were forced to wait, while others began the long detour around Africa. The incident immediately disrupted global supply chains. Estimates suggested that nearly $10 billion in global trade per day was affected by the blockage. Rescuing the vessel was an enormous engineering challenge. Excavators were brought to the canal banks to remove thousands of tons of sand. At the same time, powerful tugboats attempted to pull the ship free. For days, the world watched closely as engineers worked around the clock. Finally, during a high tide, the combined effort of dredging and multiple tugboats succeeded. The Ever Given slowly rotated back into alignment and was pulled free from the canal. Traffic resumed soon after, but the incident left a powerful lesson. A single ship, stuck in a narrow passage in the Egyptian desert, had managed to disrupt global trade across multiple continents. It was a dramatic reminder that even in the age of satellites, automation, and global logistics networks, the world still depends on a few narrow waterways. Because of its strategic importance, the Suez Canal has long been linked with geopolitics and international conflicts. Control over this waterway means influence over one of the world's most important trade corridors. The canal has been at the center of wars, political crises, and global negotiations. Even today, naval forces from many countries monitor the surrounding region. The stability of this narrow canal affects global markets, shipping companies, and national economies. On a world map, the Suez Canal appears as a thin line crossing the desert. Yet, through this narrow passage flows a large share of global commerce. Goods, energy supplies, and resources move through this corridor every single day. Most people will never see the canal. But the stability of this waterway affects economies across the planet. Sometimes, the most important places on Earth are not the largest. They are simply the narrow gateways that connect continents. And the Suez Canal is one of them.